Hi coaches, Lee Dunn here with another Game of the Week video for you. This week we're looking at a 3-goal game. So we'll have the 7v7 setup and the 9v9 setup that we'll talk through shortly. But you'll see in this week we're actually putting in a goalkeeper with the goal. Now if you don't have the goal, of course you can use the cones as I've set up at the top ends here with the orange and the yellow. You can certainly use that underneath here and as a frame for the goalkeeper to work from. So we'll make sure that the balls are available on each end so that play can get started really quickly. And then we'll also make sure that, again, your coaching position is right in the middle of the two fields if you're working on two fields like this. So you can see left and you can see right. This is going to be a little more relevant for this 7v7 side because you'll see the numbers that are playing. There's a smaller number and more likely that you'll have two games going at the same time. With the 9v9, you may find yourself on this side of the field or this side of the field because we're looking at incorporating perhaps all of the players that are at practice. So as you see on the two fields for the 7v7 and the 9v9, there is a difference in field dimension. We'll look at the 7v7 first. We're looking at 30 yards across, or 30 big steps as I like to count it out. Now the regular field is going to be anywhere between 35 and 45, but a lot of the time we make a mistake in telling our players to get right to the sideline when actually it leaves too much of a gap in here for the ball to be received in. So in having them play within the 30-yard line, when we get onto the bigger field, which would probably be over this side, there's actually a bit more space for the player to receive the ball. They're going to receive the ball in a better position. They're going to be more comfortable when receiving. And we're going to start finding that we'll have a bit more success when actually trying to play out of the back, which is what we're addressing here. And the same again for the length of the field, 40 yards. We're looking at anywhere between 55 and 65 on a regular 7v7 field. And again, the benefit to this is that these cones and a constant reference for your players are going to be teammates in the game. We're looking to get them the ball through these gaps. So we don't need to go the full length of the field because we wouldn't then be playing through the cones. We'd actually be shooting on a goal in the middle. So in this instance, we're playing through the gaps. Then also the same on the 9v9 side of the field. We're looking at 40 yards across by about 50 yards long, simply because, again, the 9v9 field, we're looking at 45 to 55 yards across and then 70 to 80 across. So again, with the same reasoning here that we don't need to go the full length and we don't need to go the full width because it's going to encourage your players to be inside a little bit more in the space to receive the ball. Often when we start playing out of the back, you'll find in this example especially, this clever little number 9 will come and sit in this gap here. So if we encourage our number 3 to stay close enough, then that pass is going to be much easier for the goalkeeper, or as you see in here, it might actually play that way. But the players are close enough. If they start disappearing off the side of the field, then we've got no chance of being able to play them the ball or playing out successfully. So let's take a look at the 7v7 game. What I will add in here is this goalie box. We make it as real as possible for the players, even though we don't have the full width of the field. We do have the goalie box, so we can mark out with a couple of cones. You put one in this corner here, one in this corner, maybe one in the middle, just to make it really defined, perhaps on the line too. So 5 cones and you've got yourself set up. And it still gives my number 2 and my number 3 a good start point. A visual cue for them is that when this goalkeeper gets the ball in here, their instant shape should be in out here in these corners like this so that the ball can be distributed quickly. It also makes it really hard for this number 9 because they don't know if they're going to go to the number 2 or to the number 3. And whichever way they do go, let's say in this example they've gone to the number 3 because they think the goalkeeper is going to fake that way, then suddenly that nice and easy distribution out to the number 2 allows them to play out. So we're looking for several little patterns that we can find with our players when they're playing out of the back. We can look to follow this arrow here, hit the number 2. Now if it's done early and the number 9 was to come and pressure, then we would encourage either the number 2 to beat the number 9 and exploit this space in here, or to play back to the goalkeeper. And then once the goalkeeper receives it back, they can look into the number 3. Now remembering that the number 9 is going to be at the end of this run and no longer in that position, they could also look to play a little more direct into the number 8. And when the ball goes into the number 8, this is another visual cue for us that this is then an indicator for the number 2 and for the number 3, and in my style of teams especially, for them to get up and join the game, so that now this red number 8 is isolated against the blue number 8 with some acceleration from number 2 to break the pressure from number 9, and then the number 8 can distribute into the 2 or to the 3, and then my encouragement is that they score quickly. Remember, these goals are players on our team, so I think the ball moves faster than the player, so let's get the ball in that goal as quickly as possible. It's also a good bit of accuracy practice. Now, if the red team win the ball, this number 7, who I've put out here on the right-hand side, he's going to join in the game and create a balanced game of 3v3, and now the red team get their reward and try and score in the goal. Of course, if they have no goal to score in, or as soon as they win it, the coach says stop, then they're going to lose interest pretty quickly in the game. And now you'll see on the 9v9 side, we're playing in a 5 versus 2 with a +1 target man with a shadow behind him. And the idea being here that it gives us a confidence to play out of the back as a build on from the 7v7. And you may find that this may be too easy, but it's a very good level to start at, so you can analyze where your players are at and where you think they need to be from here. So same thing, we're adding in our goalie box, so we have the realism for our players, we have our boundaries, and again the visual cue that once this goalkeeper gets the ball, the number 2 and the number 3 are in their spaces out wide, and they're holding that space. Goalkeeper can help us out again with a little fake towards the number 3, and then he will look to distribute to the number 2. Number 2 from here got a couple of options. Now the number 4 would be free. They could look to play inside, play a little more direct to the number 6. Well, my favorite style of play, especially within the formations that we're building up to and looking towards that target man, is to hit that nice direct ball. Now, the reason we have this solid line in here is that it gives our number 9 a reason to stay high. Now, by staying high, they stay as a target man, they're further up the field. What will happen sometimes is they'll come and just join in the game too much. Then we lose all shape of our team and we have no depth of the field. So if number 2 does receive the ball, we're going to encourage them to get forwards as much as they can. We want them to take that space. Now, we can take this further by having number 4 remain centrally and provide almost a little bit of cover for where the number 2 was, but then the number 3 is going to come inside too. That gives us a solid 2 at the back. Now, as the number 2 moves down the field into this space here, we're looking at an overload of 3 versus 2. We've got space to work with the number 6, and assuming that this number 8 is going to come and pressure, number 2's got a couple of options. Hit what would be our player in the spaces there, or we can hit into number 9. Now, number 9's going to have a tough time because this number 4 is right on her back there. So then number 6's movement is actually going to be what we call a third man run, and that's going to be away from the ball into this space here, because the number 9 can then lay the ball off and it goes into the goal. So we have lots of little patterns that we can show our players in this phase of play. So for both games, you can spend time planning on this. You can begin to look at the patterns that your players could play, and a lot of it will actually come during the practice. Your positioning, whether you're standing here and looking at 2 fields or on the side and just looking at the 1, what you'll start to see is ways that the players could play. Now, of course, they're going to lose the ball, and this is great for development. It's good for your coaching to be able to say, what could you have done better? Could you show me something that you could do differently? How could you not lose the ball there, and so on. But you can start to look at patterns. We can hit the ball from the number 2 into the number 8. The number 8 can then perhaps find the number 3, and the number 3 scores right there. You can go the other way, into the 3, into the 8, across to the 2. Or we can play even quicker, where it goes into the 2 again, number 2 dribble, score straight away. And then the same on this side too. On the 9v9 side, we hit the 2, it could hit the 4, back into the keeper, across to the 3. Number 3 could play 6, could play 9, and then could also score. Now, what I find really important in these situations is that we don't tell them. You can give them some guidance and say, why don't you try here, why don't you try this? But when you start telling them what to do, then they start relying upon you telling them what to do. And so then in a game, if number 9 starts moving over here and all we've done is practice playing out to the number 2, then suddenly we're going to be in a bit of trouble because we're going to have no ability to be creative. So whilst we're looking at these pretty little patterns, it's also important to remember the technical pointers for your players too, such as receiving the ball on their back foot so they're opened up, ready to play. If we find our players receiving the ball and they're facing back into the play, the ball's generally going to take a first touch back into where it came from, and that just invites all sorts of pressure. Now, of course, we wouldn't be true coaches if we didn't have the pressure ourselves also. So on the 7v7 side, even though the red team have the benefit of having the number 7 join in when they win the ball, to make it harder, you can add the player or add in something like a time limit where you say, if after the goalkeeper started the ball and the Blues are just maintaining possession without any real penetration to score, then let's say 10 seconds in, that number 7 can join in the game. And then the same on the 9v9 side. Even though we're playing with 2 against the 4 plus the goalkeeper to make it 5, we can add in our number 3 and our number 2. Now they're named as the number 2 and the number 3 for when the play reverses and it's their turn to play out of the back, but I would turn these into a 7 and an 11 and put them up in here and tell them go and play man for man. So I'd add 1 at a time, so there'd be 4v3 and then of course 4v4, but you still have the overload with the goalkeeper, so you continue to make it hard, but you continue to have the outlet also that the goalkeeper is the player that we never pass to, but someone that we should definitely pass to more often. And then finally, we'll consider the RPE and the time limit that we're playing for. Now remember, the RPE is the rate of perceived exertion, and when we're working for 3-minute loads like this, we look to have 1 minute to 2 minutes rest, and that's when you can build in your patterns of play and you can discuss the technical pointers of how the players receive the ball, receiving to play forwards, back foot, open up, ready to penetrate, be positive, be aggressive. But then we can also consider how hard they're working, and we can ask them, again, how hard is it? 1 to 10. 1 being the easiest thing you've ever done, 10 being the hardest thing. And if we're working correctly here, we should be looking at about a 6 to 8, with a few more players on the field and a bit more of a longer time. So we'll see that the intensity drop down a little bit from previous weeks of sessions that I've shown you. So we're looking to a 6 to an 8, maybe even a 5 if we're early in the week and we've had games at the weekend, or if we've got a game coming this weekend and we happen to be practicing on a Friday, then we don't want to be burning them into the ground. So between 5 and 6, all the way up to 8, depending on where you're at, is a very good scale for our players to be at. And it doesn't hurt just to take a water break and say, hey, little Johnny, how hard is this for you right now? And then he'll certainly give you the truth. So this is the 3-goal games, one of my favorites, and if you have any questions, definitely drop me an email and ask away. But otherwise, enjoy and look out for the next video. Thank you.